we're live.
Hello, everybody, and happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Hello.
And welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party. My name is Mother Banjo, one of your hosts.
My name is Anthony Ihrig, the other host.
And today we have joining us from, I think, California, Reina del Cid. And we're so happy to have her joining us today. And all of you tuned in. Tell us where you are tuned in from, what you're drinking. For us, it's, at least on Fridays, we call 4 p.m. here in the Central Time Zone happy hour. But I know folks are joining us from all over the world. It looks like UK, Germany, and right here in Minneapolis. So tell us what you're drinking if you are. And I will start by saying it's been quite a week. So it's not as big of a bottle as it might look on the screen. It's actually like a half size bottle, but it's a bottle of Cabernet from South Africa. And I am.
It's delicious.
Yes. So I'm going to start right now with that. Tony, what are you drinking?
I'm sticking with the little red wine as well. It's really cold here in Minnesota, but this warms you up from the inside.
Yeah, exactly. And Reina, I know it's a little bit earlier on Pacific time. Are you imbibing anything on this Friday?
Well, it's 2 p.m. I was like, maybe I should stick with coffee. But you know what? It's also Friday.
Yeah.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere, like in New York. I have friends in New York. We'll just say I'm with everyone else in spirit, and I've got my I've actually got a Modelo in a delirium tremens glass.
Ooh.
Nice.
So,
nice.
Well, cheers to that.
Cheers
to you. Cheers to all of you out there. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm seeing folks from all over the place, including, where it is 5 o'clock and after. So I think that counts for everybody.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we're just so happy to have you here. If you're new to the show, every Friday, 4 p.m. Central Time Zone, we get together with our favorite musicians and we dive back into their back catalog and just listen to music together. And we're so grateful to have Reina del Cid joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's so nice to be able to just kind of come on here and talk a little bit. I feel like all I ever do is sign in and sing. So hang out for once and just kind of enjoy a beer and kick back and listen to some music. So thank you for having me.
Oh, well, we are really excited. And it looks like, again, folks are tuned in from all over. Jimmy is in Ireland, so Guinness. Yes, that makes sense to us. Philip in Suffolk, UK. We have someone from Chile, people from all over. So thank you for tuning in. Again, feel free to throw in questions and comments as we go. We'll get to as many of them as we can. And we will just have a good time listening to music and chatting about it. And for folks, I know there's a lot of folks who are already fans of your music here, Reina, but for folks who maybe aren't as familiar with your music, maybe you could give a brief little 2-minute life bio of, where you grew up and how you came to make music and what led up to this record in particular.
Yeah, so I was born in Fargo, North Dakota. There's a music scene there more so now than when I was growing up there. But I kind of moved to Minneapolis partly for my college degree and then also to meet some more folks who were doing music kind of out and professionally. So I met Tony Lindgren, who I think most of the people on my channel would know. She's an amazing guitar player. And we formed a band with Chris Weberg and Zach Schmidt, who are both on this record that we're going to listen to today. And started performing out. I graduated from college, made sure I got a degree before I jumped full into the music thing, because you just never know if that's going to work out as a career. So I was a very type A person and thought I need to have that there to fall back on. So did that, started performing out professionally, got, played on the local stations a little bit. Actually, KFAI was, I think, maybe the first, Nice. Ellen, you're like probably the first person that ever played us on the radio. So I'm indebted to you for that. Yeah. And then, stayed around Minneapolis for a long time, went on many tours, and eventually moved to Los Angeles. And that's where I live now and still making some records. So we have a new one coming out soon.
Yes. Excellent. Yeah. And this album that we're going to listen to, The Cooling, which came out in 2015, not your first. You had done at least a few records before then. Is there anything particular that led up to the making of this record, and maybe why you chose to feature it today?
Yeah, it's still, it's one of our older ones, but it's still maybe my favorite in some ways because the songs on it mean a lot to me. And I consider it, even though we did Blueprints Plans, which is a full-length record before this one, I consider this one to be like the first real record because we finally like kind of came into our own in terms of our sound and knew what we wanted out of this record. And the songs were a little bit more developed, and I feel like this is the first time we really like hit our stride with a recording. So yeah, some of these songs I wrote when I was a teenager and kind of finished them for this record. And then some of them I had written a couple months before we went into the studio for the cooling. So it's kind of all over the gamut, but I feel like they're tied together with a sort of certain sound that we just really haven't had on any of the other records. So.
Excellent. And it looks like I love, by the way, all the folks who've joined us today, because some people are asking questions and other fans are answering them for them. So
yes.
You might not have to answer too many questions, Reina, because Amrita was wondering what your major was in college. And then James said she studied English. So which makes sense. I mean, writing and storytelling, which is such a big part of songwriting in general. But in particular, I would say your songs, you often have a very storytelling component, little short stories. I kind of think of a lot of your songs.
That's true. Yeah. Very narrative style. Yeah.
And and then someone said, tell us about Mother Banjo too. Well, that will have to be a whole nother show. Actually, Tony and I did do our very first episode of Back Catalog. We actually talked about each other's records. So we'll share a link with that
View at your
for
own
you.
risk.
Yes, exactly. But today it's all about Reina del Cid. So
Yeah.
we want to jump into the music. So we will do that right now. Start off with a song. And I think this is the first track from the record too, if I'm not mistaken.
Number 1. Yes, it is.
Okay, Sweet Annie. Is there anything you want to say about it before we take a listen, or you just want to chat about it afterwards?
Well, I guess I'll say that it's it's a song that gets really big really fast. So it's kind of a weird one to put first on the album because it's like kind of we unleash everything all at once. But it's a song about domestic abuse. So trigger warning to anybody out there who maybe has a history with that and doesn't necessarily maybe go get a drink and come back. So that's what the topic is from the perspective of the domestic abuser and instead of the victim. So that's kind of just to set it up.
All right, well, let's give it a listen. This is Reina del Cid, Sweet Annie, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
try to leave me. I grab my gun and start a war.
All right. Reina del Cid here on the back catalog listening party with Sweet Annie from her 2015 release, The Cooling, which we are revisiting today on the show. And if you're new to the show, this is what we do. Every week, Tony and I invite different guest artists to revisit old records, and we listen to them together and talk with the artist about them. And already, right from the get-go, this is really interesting to me and a lot of fans. And again, I've known this record for a long time, but I actually didn't know the background of that song. Either way, it painted a vivid picture, but it painted a much darker picture when you contextualize it from the song being written from the point of view of a domestic abuser. But yet it rocks so much. I mean, that's one of the things that's so interesting about your music, Reina, is that like it's so catchy and instantly like you want to sing and like rock out, and then you're like, oh wait, this song is like
you're like, what am I singing? What are the words?
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a lot like some of the folk music we feature on the show. Bluegrass is a great example where the song is happy, but people are dying, people are going to prison.
Right.
We've talked about this before, and I really think there's something about music that can literally make you feel two things at once, and that's like nothing else. There's like no other language really that moves me like quite like that. And I think there's something powerful the way it helps you absorb both the music and the lyrics, especially when you know the backstory.
Yeah, that's the kind of the signature thing about this record, and maybe like all of the stuff that I write. Not all of it, but a lot of it has a very dark theme with very like poppy, catchy, fun, summery, like melodies and instrumentation. So yeah, it's kind of one of those things where like people are like, oh yeah, Reina del Cid, you can like dance along and sing along and it's fun. But if you really listen to the lyrics, a lot of it has really dark themes, and that's true for most of the album. So yeah.
Well, I'm really digging it. A lot of folks out there are, and we have so many questions. We'll see how many of them we can get to, but I took down a few of them. Keep them coming though, folks. And if something doesn't get answered, you can always throw it in the comments again. We might have just missed it. So we'll do our best. But Graham asked a really great question. He asked, do you like the sound of your own voice? Like, do you like listening to yourself? And, or have you just learned to live with it? Because I know a lot of us artists, like, we don't really love listening to ourselves, but you kind of get used to it.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I've gotten better at it because it's kind of part of my job to, record things and then go back and like, put the video together. So I have to hear myself a lot, and I've gotten used to hearing myself. But I remember in the beginning, first few things we recorded, I was like, oh God, how can anyone stand to listen to me? I think we most of us have that. So yeah, it's just something I've had to get over. I I don't think I have one of the best voices of all time. I actually don't think of myself as a singer first. I think of myself as a writer, a songwriter. And the singing part of it just kind of is a thing I have to do to get the song out, So yeah, I struggle with the vocal part of things, but yeah, it's okay. I don't mind it as much anymore.
Well, a lot of people were loving that, and we're calling it out specifically. There's just
With the vocals,
too many comments to grab them, but I saw at least a half dozen people that were really enjoying the sound of your voice.
Yeah, I'm glad people enjoy it.
And also a few folks just now when we were talking about the juxtaposition of kind of a happy sounding song and with a dark theme, several people mentioned your recent cover of Maxwell's Silver Hammer as a great example of that.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's great. And then also let's see, Jadels, I'm not sure how the screen name, but said, how do you make songs? And I'm guessing questioning more about like the approach to writing songs. So like this song, let's use this song as an example, because I'm guessing most artists don't do the same thing for every song. So how did this song in particular come about? Did you have the story in mind before you picked up a guitar?
Yeah, I think, I don't exactly remember the exact inspiration for it, but I do think I came across some sort of story where, there was like some domestic abuse situation. And I've done this a few times where I take up the perspective of the wrongdoer. So I did this with a song called Salem, where I wrote about the Salem witch trials from the perspective of the people that hanged all those women. Like what were they thinking? Like writing a song just to explore their point of view, and not in the most flattering light, but just to kind of get myself out of the perspective that we all naturally gravitate to, which is the logical, perspective of the victim. So I think in this case, I just was interested in sort of creating this character of like who would do this kind of thing, and then what would cause them to do it. What are the emotions and the feelings that would well up inside somebody that would make someone, control someone else and cause harm upon them, but love them so deeply, So, yeah, I guess that was mostly it.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's funny because someone earlier had also asked about, there's so many dark songs that Reina has. Are these autobiographical? And they were like, sounded concerned that you were going through some hard times. But it sounds like you are really interested in telling the stories of other people.
That's really what it is. And I wrote a song on the new album that's coming out. I'm a serial killer in one of the songs. So let's hope that they're not autobiographical. I just like telling stories, and yeah.
It is funny because a few years ago, I did an EP that were all like story songs about sinners, cheaters, and ne'er-do-wells. And I always joke that was the most fun album to write because it was like, I had to do research for the project. But they weren't autobiographical, but you know what I mean? It is, there is something that's sort of just like lots of kinds of art, whether you're an actor or someone else, there's something about taking on someone else's story and seeing what happens when you kind of try and share it with other people and see what you learn from it, that I think is really powerful.
Exactly. Yeah.
And let's see. Someone asked about production on this record, and I want to get more into that after we listen to some more music, so we can get maybe a sense of the variety of that. But that song in particular, some people called out Tony, of course, Tony Lindgren on guitar.
That was smoking. And I want to say, I think that's the first like finger tapping electric guitar solo we've ever had in 100 or almost 100 episodes. So.
The only one on any of our records too.
That was pretty amazing.
Yeah. So and I know Tony's like been a longtime collaborator with you, and is she the first one you bring these songs to when you're trying to work it up before the band?
Yep, definitely. She's my number one go-to for input on the songwriting, and then even just arrangement. And I kind of go to her for like even just the feel, like what will the bass kind of do. And we have hired and work with some amazing bass players and drummers and keyboardists, but in the end I feel like Tony's like the sort of creative traffic that flows between us is just very in sync. And so often like she'll bring out something I hadn't thought of, or I will do the same for her, and it just works really well. So we kind of come at the band with this like preformed idea together, and then we start arranging from there. So yeah, very much so. Tony's my right hand woman.
Yeah, and what a right-hand woman to have. One of my favorite guitarists out there right now. Just so versatile and so focused on what the songs are doing, which I think is such an asset to any songwriter. Robert asked who was singing in the background on that track.
That was me. That was many me's.
Many me's.
I think we had up to 20 Reinas back there, all
Nice.
jumbled up together. So yeah, we went crazy with the layering on that song, as you can probably hear. Just a ton of guitar tracks, a ton of vocals. So yeah, it ends up being kind of big by the end. But yeah, that was mostly just a bunch of Reinas.
Well, it was sounding great, and I know folks want to hear more music. So we're going to get to another track. The next one you picked from this album to feature is Where the Sun Always Shines. Is there anything you want to say about this before we dive in?
Well, so yet again, this is another song that sounds pretty happy and fun and groovy, but it is another dark theme, and this time it's drug addiction. So from the perspective of someone who is an addict and the kind of the journey that you go on there. And this was influenced by a couple people in my life that were going through this at the time. So yeah, Where the Sun Always Shines.
All right, Reina del Cid, Where the Sun Always Shines here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
I didn't tell him I was going, couldn't look him in the eye. I took the good love in my heart and I willed it to die. And when it wouldn't, well, I kept it. I didn't bother to cry. 'Cause I knew I was going where the sun always shines. Where the sun always shines, where the sun always shines. Up past the airplanes and the birds in the sky. Where the half dead and broken are grateful and kind. In the highest of cities where the sun always shines. On the ground my body wanders in an open gun range. And it moves with the gait of the battered and lame. But up here, the bullets just feel warm and strange. And my mind is still living where the sky never rains.
Gotta wait for that last moment to ring out. That is a Reina del Cid, When the Sun Always Shines. And I love, Ken, that you were saying the head bobbing is classic while Reina listens with a critical ear. That's true. Tony and I just like to rock out pretty much.
Yeah. Well, I'm obsessed with really good production like this, and I hope maybe in this segment we can talk a little bit about it because
Yes.
I mean, just hearing the kind of the depth of these instruments, the electric guitar and the drums and the bass. And for those of you who are listening online, I mean, you're getting a fraction, I think, of what it really sounds like. So maybe we'll just take this opportunity really quick to let you know that you can get high resolution version of this. Rain is probably the best place, probably through your website, to pick up copies of this.
Yeah, definitely the website. If you're trying to support the artist directly, definitely right through the website is the best way to do it. So.
And is this still available in hard copies?
This, I believe this one is on our store. A couple of them might be out of stock right now because there have been, COVID delays and, interruptions to the production chain. But I think it might be in stock. And if it's not, it will be again soon. So.
Right on. Sweet. Well, you'll definitely want to pick it up in its full high resolution sound.
Oh, yeah.
It
This sounds so good.
Fantastic. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about the recording of this record.
Yeah, so we recorded the cooling at a place called Pachyderm Studio in Cannon Falls, Minnesota. It has a storied history. A lot of amazing bands have recorded there. And actually, Brent Sigmuth, the tracking engineer, the recording engineer that we worked with there, he has a lot of, he's worked with so many people. I was very intimidated going in there to work with Brent, and it turned out that he was the kindest, sweetest person and put us at ease and just the ideal person that you would want to record with because you just don't feel pressured and you just feel totally comfortable. So he has credits on like In Utero by Nirvana, and he's worked with like Brian Setzer and all kinds of people. So
yeah. He really is. He's like just one of the best in the business.
He really is, and he's so kind. And so we recorded the main sort of the big tracks there, like the drums, the guitars, the bass, all in the same room together. And then we overdubbed vocals later at Brent's like home studio called Little Big Studio, which is more affordable because Pachyderm's expensive, and we had a Kickstarter. We raised a bunch of money for the album, but it only goes so far, so we had to kind of try to bring the cost down a little bit wherever we could. So did the vocals at Brent's place, and yeah.
And this board, Pachyderm really is an amazing place, and I believe this board was the same board. I guess it was like one of Jimi Hendrix' records was actually recorded on the same Neve board that was in Pachyderm at this time. I mean, there's some mojo here at Pachyderm Studio, and you can hear it. And for folks who are watching the video stream of this, you can see the big room there, and I think that really plays a huge part in kind of the big sound that we're hearing. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm assuming there's a lot of bleed between the different instruments. Yes.
Yeah. Well, the amp is Tony's guitar amp is like in a different room, isolated, and she's just listening to herself through headphones as she plays. But same with the bass. Bass is the amp is in a different room. But everybody got to stand in the drum room as they were recording, like the guitars and bass and drums, and so everybody was close to each other. And I really think that adds a lot, than doing it piecemeal. It's nice to be able to feed off of each other energy wise. So that's how we did the basic tracks. And then, like I said, it was a lot of overdubbing of like all those, like we said with Sweet Annie, all those like guitar overdubs and vocal arrangements and stuff. So yeah, that's basically how we did it. Pachyderm has, like you said, those giant windows. So as you're singing and recording, you're just seeing like Minnesota woods for miles and miles. It's in the middle of nowhere, which is really cool in the summer when we did the cooling. We came back to do Rerun City, our next album, there in the dead of winter. So it was just this white, beautiful, snowy background. So it doesn't matter when you go there. It's just an incredible place. So that's Zach, the drummer on the left there, me, Tony, and then Chris Weberg, the bassist. And these are the four main people on the album.
And this is outside Pachyderm, it looks like.
That, it might have been. I can't exactly remember when we did that photo, but...
Right. I think that's another really special thing about this place. It's like kind of one of those destination studios. Did you actually spend a couple days there and like, so for those who aren't familiar with this idea, rather than just drive to the studio and come back home, like the whole band gets to hang out, talk about how the day's recording went, take notes. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience staying there?
Yeah, so included in when you book Pachyderm, there's a guest house that's right next to the studio. So the band just gets to hole up in the guest house for as long as you're there recording. So I think we spent about 4 days there. So we loaded in everything, got to leave it set up, come back the next morning, have some coffee, hang out at night, have a couple beers, bond, talk about arrangements, and just there's no like interruption. You get to knock it all out in one. And that guest house is incredible. It has like a sauna and a pool. And the sauna really helped because I started to get a cold like on day 3. So I went into the sauna and just sweated out and it was gone, which is great. So yeah, it was an awesome experience.
And when you came to the studio, are these songs kind of fully formed because you've been playing them out, or do you do any of that kind of arrangement ahead of time and bring it to the band? Like, what's your process for kind of creating these different textures? Because the songs really do have these kind of beginning, middle, ends, and there's a lot of different layers going on there. And I'd love to hear a little bit about your process.
Well, this is like I said, an earlier album, so we didn't have much of a budget. We knew we only had 3 or 4 days in the studio, and so we really wanted to have it well arranged and well orchestrated, practiced and rehearsed, and note for note, ready to go, so that we didn't go over our time and everything. So that was in a way, this is the most like rehearsed album we've done. All the arrangements were ready to go. But like in future albums, like Morse Code, our most recent one that's out, we did a lot of the arranging in the studio because we had a little bit more of a budget, and we were friends with the person recording us, so there wasn't as much pressure to get in and out. So yeah, I think there are just 2 different ways to do it. It worked really well for the cooling to have it be sort of pre-rehearsed and arranged, but it also is really nice to have that creative freedom to add stuff last minute in the studio. So.
And on this topic, Sparky was wondering, was there anything left unfinished that you wanted to change or redo when your time was up?
I would say the only thing that comes to mind is Death Cap. We recorded it. I would say now, listening back, we recorded it a little fast, like the tempo is fast. Mm-hmm. There just wasn't enough time to go back and be like, let's just like slow it down 10 clicks. Mm-hmm. I think now we probably would have just sprung for the extra whatever it was and done it. But at the time, like I said, we were on such a tight budget. We're in our early 20s and just happy to be in Pachyderm at all. So we're like, I'm sure it'll be fine. And now we just play it slower in the live show, and that's just that. So
yeah, and songs do change over time, so that definitely happens. And on that topic, Andreas was wondering if you were producing this now, what else? Maybe in addition to that, what else would you have done differently?
Well, I think. We've gotten better as players since this album. I can hear it when I listen back to it. I've gotten to be, I think, a little bit better at singing, and I was maybe like a little more careful then. I was singing very carefully, and I feel like some of the expression might be, I'd be able to put a little bit more expression into some of that. And our time has gotten better over the years. We've played together more, so we're just more in tune with each other. I can hear us. I can just hear it's an early stage of the development. So I feel like a lot of it would be performance things. But I am proud of the arrangements. I don't think we would change much about the arrangements.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds really great to me. And I've heard you a lot since the making of this record. And I think this album definitely stands up to the quality of what you do now. If everything was ready to go, who produced?
We didn't really have I guess I was the producer mostly. So
put that credit on there.
Yeah.
Take that
didn't
credit.
Bring anyone in for that role. So
yeah.
Nice. Well, these are all very great questions. We sure appreciate everybody chiming in. There's a lot of you out there, and we're going to try to get to as many of these questions as we can. But
that's right.
I wanted to some people are doing what we call super chats on YouTube and leaving donations, and I really want to thank you guys, John Eldred, Terry Mosgrave, Aaron Catron, and I think a couple others have come in, Gary Warner. So just thank you guys so much for those.
And this is a good time to also mention that in addition to buying Reina del Cid's album that we're talking about today, The Cooling, and her other great recordings, she has a Patreon. And I think a lot of you probably tuned in might already be a part of the Patreon. But if you aren't, this is a great way to support her all year round, whether she's touring or not, or making a record it or not, you can support her, and she gives you a lot back for that support. I know she gives videos and concerts and all kinds of good stuff. Anything else you want to mention that's coming up for the Patreon folks?
Well, there's an after party actually right now.
Today, yeah.
So if you're a patron, just head on over to Patreon right when we're done here, and we're doing a little informal Zoom where we just get to catch up. And I have not seen many of your faces, so I can't wait to kind of zoom in and see you guys. So
yes, so you
Very
can
cool.
get in on that. And we are going to try and at least get through 2 more songs here before the end of today's show. So let's get into the title track here, The Cooling. And this also might be a good time to also mention the cover art for this album, which has like your frosted hair, which I've always loved. It has like this great kind of sparkly feel to it, but yet, of course, reflecting the content of the songs, much sadder Reina than we normally see.
it's dark, frosty, cold. Yeah, hopefully that's not me inside.
Well, you shared a couple photos from the shoot here. So
Oh, cool.
That was
I haven't seen these.
they put me on the ground to get that shot so that the hair would be splayed all over, and they definitely did like most of the effects afterwards in Photoshop. But you can see my eyebrow is all frosted out there, and my friend Darla, you can see her there in the shadows. She did the makeup for it, and she ended up being on that makeup contest show. Like I can't remember what it was called. It was like a big deal. Where
oh yeah, Glow Up, was that one?
it might have been that. It was like special effects makeup, and everybody's
Okay.
and she won, and she knew
Oh,
she knew that she had won when we were doing this, but she couldn't tell us because she was under contract to not say. So it was just cool. So anyway,
that's very cool. We'll make sure to get her information, throw that in the show notes. So if
Yeah.
people who are interested in her and her journey, that sounds really cool.
incredibly talented. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, so the song "The Cooling," which some folks already chiming in how much they love that song. So we will get to it. But is there anything you want to say about the track or the song itself?
So the cooling is about like on the surface, it's about someone who realizes that they're a zombie, that they've died, and now they're just walking around as a zombie with a knife sticking out of their head. So it's kind of a zombie song, but it's also a metaphor for, clinical depression, mental illness. So you can either read it the fun way, where it's just like a fun, dark zombie song, or you can read it the like more serious way, which is a little bit darker, going along with the dark theme of this album.
Well, like all good art, right? It's open to interpretation. So why don't you put your headphones on and give it a good listen? This is The Cooling from Reina del Cid here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
First thing to go might surprise you to know it's not the blood from the muscle or the strength from the bone. Between you and me, it's the simplest thing. It's the warmth of the body when the soul is at home. It's the heat. And you struggle to keep it inside, but it seems stealing away in the night. When you first realized that your body had died, you went to the tunnel to wait there alone, and you stood there for days, but the light never came. So you took your poor body and you walked it back home. Now you're popping some pills so to fight back the chill, and you're picking some flowers to help with the stench, but no manner of blush will be quite enough just to cover the pallor. It spreads across your skin, and they said that hell would be fire and smoke, but in the end, it's the cooling that scares you the most. There's a pretty young thing with a pretty gold ring, and she talks to you every night 'cause she don't know you're dead, and you can't figure how when you're walking through town no one's noticed the knife sticking out of your head. Now you're living in fear, or that sometime this year they will finally notice your heart doesn't beat, and they'll dig you a grave and they'll put you away, but you still won't be ready. You grow back like a weed, like a weed. And you wonder what you're waiting for, 'cause it seems there's no honor in death anymore.
All right, Reina del Cid with one of my favorites from this record, the title track, "The Cooling," from her 2015 release. Reina del Cid joining us live to talk about it today on the Back Catalog Listening Party. And this is what we do every Friday at 4 p.m. Central. We hang out on YouTube, invite artists to talk about old records. And a couple folks have commented how grateful they are, Reina, for you being so forthright about your feelings about your songwriting and your singing, and that not all artists feel comfortable, really diving into that. And it's such a treat. I would echo those sentiments. It's a great treat to have someone be so candid about their process and how they feel about the songs.
Also, a lot of comments about that amazing string section and
Yes.
the arrangement there. I think we all were feeling that. So a couple of people talked about how cinematic this is, and of course with those lyrics now too. I mean, it's like a movie in and of itself. But could you talk a little bit about that amazing string section and the arrangement of those parts?
Yeah, so my friend Grace, she arranged the string parts for that along with Tony, input from Tony. Tony kind of wrote the cello solo that's in the middle of the song, and Grace kind of helped transcribe that for cello, and Grace did most of the arrangements just throughout the song. So I was really lucky. I'm lucky to have Grace as a friend. She's done other string arrangements for my songs too, and she actually also put together the players. They're incredible players. They have like incredible accomplishments and everything. I was so lucky to have them. It's Charles Ash on cello, Kate Jarvis on violin, Laura de St. Croix on the other second violin, and then Blake Bondi on bass. So they're just all phenomenal in their own right, and I think it adds so much to the song. So.
Well, we actually have a clip of them recording this part for The Cooling in the big room at Pachyderm. You guys want to take
Yes.
a listen and watch that? All right, this is the kind of.
I didn't even know you had this, Tony. So
These
I'm
are
really
things
excited.
that you can't get in the liner notes, right? This is where all us music nerds really geek out. Let's check it out.
There's our little plug for our Kickstarter, and that's
Well, obviously it was successful because you were
Yeah.
able to record the album. So
I love
yay.
seeing things like that. I mean, we got to see the pizzicato on the strings, and it's just really, really cool that you shared that with us.
Yeah, very cool. And something that I'd be curious about. Someone had asked earlier what genre you would call your music. And obviously, even as we hear this record, and this is just one recording of yours, there's a lot of different sounds in there, from those classical strings to the, rocking out and the more acoustic stuff. What would you call your music? I know no artist likes to, put themselves in a box.
The dreaded question.
I know, right?
You kind of have to do it though. We call it folk rock. Most of our albums would kind of, I think, mostly comfortably sit in that. So obviously we have some like diverging songs, but I think for the most part, there's some folk we have some bluegrassy, folky, kind of Americana songs, and we've also got kind of the pop rock side. So folk rock seems to cover most of it.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, me too. Yep.
And someone had asked about your background and growing up, and they asked if your parents were musical. But yeah, I'd love to know a little bit about, did you play a lot of music growing up?
Well, my dad got me into the guitar. We were watching a late night movie, and then right afterwards an infomercial came on, and it was like Esteban. What was his name?
Esteban. Yeah, it was him.
Right?
Yeah, I remember those commercials.
Like Spanish guitar, and my dad was like, "Oh, if I bought you that guitar and Esteban's like, less DVD or whatever, would you play it for at least 6 months?" And I said, "Absolutely, I would." And I was 15, so he sent away for that. It came. I did my 6 months of lessons and started writing songs, and the rest is history. My dad was in a barbershop quartet, so he did sing growing up. My mom didn't. She's a big fan of music, but she's not a musician herself. So.
Well, that explains the arranging, right? The barbershop. And our good friend David Robinson, hey, David, he's our neighbor down the street here in South Minneapolis, mentions that about the arranging. And that makes sense. I mean, were you kind of studying the stuff your dad was doing and what in that barbershop setting?
There's no recording of him singing in any of his, none of his gigs were recorded. There's nothing I can hear of my dad in those days. So that's unfortunate. But he did have over 2,000 CDs in the house, just walls full of CDs and vinyl. So he was always playing music and introducing me to a lot of the stuff that I listen to now and cover on the YouTube channel. So
very cool.
Yeah. And I'm guessing a lot of folks here are maybe tuned in through your YouTube channel and are already familiar. But if for our regular back catalog folks who might not be subscribed to Reina del Cid's YouTube channel, you should check it out because she does post really great covers every week. So you can check that out there.
Right. And now we know the inspiration, that wall of CDs.
Yeah, exactly. And Russell asks, and I highlight this, and I don't know if this is something I should know about or not, or maybe it's just a random question, but Russell wants to know any songs about turnips.
Turnips?
Yeah.
No, but
I know. I feel like that's such a good prompt because it's so unusual.
There is a song about mushrooms, about one deadly mushroom. But yeah, I should.
Okay, now turnips. Okay, Tony, we're all three of us. We're going to write a song about turnips. That's the next assignment.
Oh boy.
I know, right? Who knows what will happen with that? And then Russell said, or was it beets? So maybe he was thinking of a specific song, but
it's probably the mushroom song.
Probably the mushroom. Yeah.
I just want to call out this comment here. So many banjo people on this channel. Very welcoming.
Yes.
Just wanted to let you know that if you play the banjo or if you like the banjo, you're in a safe place.
Yes, this is a safe place for banjo players. It's very true.
An incredible banjo player. So.
Well, we are so happy to have you here, Reina del Cid, but we know that we don't have you here forever. So it's funny. Someone actually just said Death Cap. Carol just said that. And a lot of folks have been putting their requests for their favorite songs on this record. And we're not going to get to all of them because we only have an hour. But folks should buy that record or stream it on repeat because it's really good. And you are going to want to hear all these songs. But these are the songs, by the way, just so you know, these aren't our picks. Tony and I do not tell the artist what album or what songs. The artist gets free reign to pick the album and whatever songs they want to feature on the show. So these are Reina's picks. So the last song we're going to feature today is Death Cap, which Carol's going to be excited about. So tell us a little bit about this song and why you wanted to make sure to include it on today's show.
So this is the song about the mushroom, Death Cap. This is a killer mushroom called, I think it's Amanitas. I'm going to make a fool out of myself. Amanitas phalloides or something like that. But yeah, it's the most poisonous mushroom known to man. So it's very common in Europe. I was reading about it in an article in National Geographic one day, and I thought it'd make a really interesting sort of concept for a song. So I wrote this. We did the music video for it in Iceland, which was a really cool experience. First time I'd ever left the country, and I was really afraid to get on I hate flying, so I was afraid of the international flight, and was really glad I did it anyway because we had an incredible shoot and got a really cool video out of it. So
yeah. So those who are watching on YouTube here, you'll see a picture of you. This is filming the video.
Yep, that's Jason Ho. He's the director, and then
gorgeous.
Tony was along for the ride, even though she wasn't in the video. She was kind of helping. Like, it was so cold when we were filming that, and Tony kept running out with like jackets and hand warmers and stuff. So happy to have you there. But.
Well, speaking of Tony, just because I know we're getting short on time, but I love the little nuggets that we can share on this show that you can't really find anywhere else. For this song, there's a really killer guitar solo that Tony does, and somebody in Pachyderm had the camera rolling and shared Tony just tearing it up on the solo. Would you mind if we share that?
Let's see it.
All right, so you can hear, this is going to be the solo isolated, then we'll hear the song. So this is Tony playing her solo.
Oh, wow. And we're going to hear the whole thing, just so you know, folks. So
yeah, that was just a taste, but I love it. I mean, you get to see. Was that the actual take then? Do you know if that was the take? That
was the take. Yeah, that was exactly the take. So
that's even cooler.
Yeah.
Very
All right.
cool.
Well, let's give the whole song a listen. This is Death Cap, Reina del Cid here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
The baddest news of all, it comes in mid-July. I'm standing in my summer dress. I've got tears in my eyes. The telephone's ringing, but I don't wanna go down to the river where the death cap goes. So can I stay? Please, can I stay? Just one more day. Just one more day. Well, I've been a fool. From London to Rome, and just picking mushrooms on my way back home. And I've seen more in 10 years now than I was ever meant to see. So I'm older now. I'm older now than I can stand to be. And please, can I stay? Please, can I stay? at a time.
All right. Forgot about that last bass note. Reina del Cid with Death Cab here on the back catalog listening party from her 2015 release, The Cooling, about the deathly mushroom. And that's one of my favorite. I said The Cooling was my favorite, but I don't know. Death Cap's a close tie with that. And folks loving that. And also, Richard said, hit that like button, folks. And I would agree with him. If you are liking what you're hearing, and we know you are because of all these comments, like it on YouTube, whether you're on Reina del Cid's page or ours. Like it, send more bots to Reina del Cid. And that would be a great thing.
And I did see that at least one person mentioned that they bought the CD right off the website. So, that goes a long way for artists. One CD purchase is like 5 years of Spotify plays. So why don't you head on over to Reina's website, reinadelcid.com, and just buy up all her CDs because that's the best way to support an artist and show them how much you appreciate them.
Yeah. And Paul mentioned that he said he really appreciated today's show because it brought his appreciation for her music to a whole new level. And it's so true. Getting the chance to talk with artists about their songs, especially their older albums, is something we really cherish here on Back Catalog because so often artists aren't asked about their older records. They're only asked about their newest thing. And, I know, Reina, you spent a lot of time on these songs and recording them and bringing them to life for us all to enjoy. And we want to make sure these beautiful art pieces get heard. So thank you so much for sharing them.
Thank you for even having a show like this. Like you said, it's so important to, let artists talk about the art that they make, and it's really a privilege. So I know I'm the 95th episode. You guys have done so many of these, and I encourage any of my viewers from the channel to check out the rest of them because a lot of my friends from Minneapolis have been on your guys' show, and I've watched a few of them. They're just always so well done, and it's always really fascinating to hear the backstories of the albums that I've already known and loved. So thanks for having me on the show.
Well, thank you. This is what it's all about is getting together with people and in community, and music can bring people together even during these dark days. So somebody did ask if we had a YouTube channel. We do. It's just youtube.com/back catalog listening party. So you come find us.
And we'll put a link in the comments too so that folks can find that.
Yeah. And it's so much fun. And we really appreciate you spending the hour with us today.
For sure. And again, if you like what you heard and want to support Reina del Cid, and maybe you're like, I have no use for a CD, you can join her Patreon. You can get the link. And again, we're going to be hanging out with her a little bit longer for our back catalog patrons and her patrons. We're joining forces for a big old party. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm looking forward to it.
And also, we should mention that we also have a Patreon too. So if you're enjoying the show and you want to support it, feel free. We have some folks that we want to thank who do this every month. And really, when Tony, and that would be Tony Ihrig, Anthony Ihrig, not Tony Lindgren. When Anthony Ihrig and I decided to start this show, it was at the beginning of the pandemic, March 2020. And we thought, we'll just do this, to keep ourselves from being bored without gigging and stuff. And then it turns out we're still doing this 95 episodes later. It's because of these people that wanted to keep it continuing. So thank you to Penny, Anne, Alinda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Alex, Becky, Galen, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, John, Fred, Tim, Sarah, David, Jocelyn, Court, Matt, Steve, Mark, Homestead Pick and Parlor, and Severin over in Germany. Thank you so much for your support.
Yes, we appreciate it. And we appreciate all of you who were tuning in today. This is so much fun. We couldn't get to all your questions and comments, but thank you so much for putting them in there. They do stay in the kind of archive of this. So when people go back and watch it, you'll see all of the questions and comments and things like that. So it is preserved along with the video.
Yeah, and also on our website, backcatalog.listeningparty.com, we have the YouTube video, which you can find anywhere, but also we include in the show notes, we include some links and photos and things like that that went along with the show. So if you want to dive deeper, you can find that there as well. And we do also want to mention, again, if you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, you can be notified of what is happening next week. And I'm trying to think what is happening next week. What's today, the 28th? Next week is Annie Mac. I'm so
Oh.
excited.
Love Annie Mac. That's
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a good one. So if you don't know her, you will want to know her.
Tune
Trust
in
me.
next Friday and you'll be happy you did.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much to all of you for tuning in, and most especially to Reina del Cid for taking the time to talk with us because, again, it's been so long since I've seen you, even online. So it's so great to hear your voice and catch up.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having
And
me.
hi to Tony, by the way, out there, too. I see you're
Yes,
tuned in.
she's in the chat.
All right. Well, this was a blast for the Patreon supporters. We're going to see you in momentarily over on our Patreon Zoom call. We're looking forward to seeing your smiling faces. And for the rest of you, we'll see you next week here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. Have a great weekend. Cheers.
Yeah.